Hello everyone and welcome to another Polo and Tweed live video. I am absolutely delighted to be joined today by a very good friend and industry expert called Sam Loxton. Hi Sam, how are you?
Hi Lucy, very well, thanks. How are you?
Good, I'm very well, thank you for asking, and thank you so much for joining us today. Now, Sam has an amazingly interesting background in his career, and he's come to share some insights into this incredible world in which he works. So, Sam, I thought I could hand over to you straight away, and you could tell everyone watching a little bit about yourself and your background.
Sure. So I left school at 16. Always wanted to join the army, and that fell through. And by hook or by crook, ended up in the antiques world. Started at Bonhams when I was 16, working part-time, and somehow fell into what I do now, which is buying and selling antique jewellery. When I started at Bonhams, it was a general role, so I was lugging furniture around, rugs, paintings. And then the career just evolved from there, really. Got down a speciality in jewellery, moved from Bonhams to Christie's, and spent 3 years at Christie's, where I studied for my gemological exams, a degree in gemology, which is the science behind gemstones. And then after 3 years there, decided that I'd want to cross the counter. So I started working for a jewellery as his sort of right-hand man, learnt the trade, as it were, and fast forward 20 odd years, and I've now set up on my own. Having run a company for the last 10 years for someone else, I decided the time was right. With hindsight, maybe it wasn't the best timing, but you never know. And in October, I set up Lockstone London Limited.
Okay, fantastic. So explain to me then how you sort of entered into this amazing world of antique jewelry and gemstones, because to us mere mortals who might like wearing them or buying it, it's quite a big jump from sort of having an interest into then sort of being professional and, like you said, studying gems. So I mean, what does that even entail? What was that like?
A lot of science. The actual I mean, gemology is a science, obviously, but I was hopeless at science at school. So the first question, the jump into jewelry was happenstance. Christie's advertised a vacancy in the jewelry department, and I thought, well, why not? At the same time, I applied for a job at the National Art Library at the V&A, and ended up with both jobs. Had to make a choice, and Christie's, to be honest, offered a better career path for me. As much as I loved old books, I had to look long term. So I started there, and they then encouraged me to take my FGA exam to become a fellow of the Gemological Association. And as I said, I hated science, absolutely hated it at school. And something about some sort of mystical allure to the gemstones. And for example, did you know that a sapphire and a ruby are both the same chemical? They're both aluminium oxide. They're both corundum. So ruby is in fact a red sapphire. Well, I never knew that. But when you get into the nitty gritty of the science and chemical formulas and the fact that certain elements create certain colors, etc., it brought a new angle to science for me, and a fascination grew from there. So it was pure chance, and like most things happen for a reason, and 20 years later, I'm still as excited about it as I was back then.
Wow. And so obviously you specialize in antiques, which, as we all know, would be pieces that are older and have not just been made. So there must be a difference between the antique market and the more sort of modern market. I wouldn't know even how to say the comparison, but jewelry that's being produced now versus antique.
The contemporary world.
Yeah, the contemporary, exactly. So how do you actually start your process from sourcing items for clients? Do clients come to you with a specific request? Do you sort of look for special pieces and then reach out to your client? How does your model work? How do you approach that?
I think there are several ways you can do it, and I try to do each of these because we try and do as much business as we can. Clients tend to find me because they buy into what I like and my style. So like brings like, and I have certain areas that I heavily specialize in, such as Suzanne Belperon, for example, who was probably the greatest jewelry designer of the 20th century. She had a very definitive style. She was famously quoted as saying, "My style is my signature." So if you're looking for a piece of Belperon, I'd like to think that I'm one of the handful of people in the world that can find you the right thing.
Okay.
So that's sort of approach one. Approach two is, yes, seeing something great and going, "Oh, I don't know who is going to buy this, but someone must want it because it is the best thing since sliced bread, and I have to own it, therefore someone else has to own it."
Sure.
Slightly more risky because that then eats into your cash flow. You're investing heavily into a piece. Normally, by heavily, I normally mean several zeros. And that can be both stressful and rewarding at the same time. But then you've got to go out into the marketplace and find a client for it. And the third way is through recommendations, friends of friends, and you'll get something out of left field. Someone will go, "I've been looking for ages for X and I can't find it. Can you help me?" And it may be something that I've never bought before, but that's interesting. It broadens one's knowledge to have to go out and actually hunt these pieces down specifically.
Of course. Yeah, and so obviously taste comes into everything. You know, if you're buying art or furniture or designing a house or buying antique jewelry, the client's taste is going to affect the piece that they buy. So how do you know, if a client comes to you with more of a general spectrum, you know, they want an antique piece, a specific type of jewelry, but don't necessarily know what they want, how do you start to sort of understand what it is they actually want, or do always clients come to you with a direct brief, "I want this piece, it has to look like this," or, you know, how do you understand their taste and then how to match their taste?
It's difficult. I think a lot of it comes from experience. You know, taste to me can be broken down into several different components. You've got a geographical element, by which I mean that there's definitely a Middle Eastern taste. There's definitely an East Coast America taste, a West Coast America taste, a European taste, a Far East taste, and they all have different things that they're looking for, but you can sort of lump them all together into those geographical regions. Then you've got an age taste, sort of maturity level. You know, the younger collectors will want something different from those of us of a certain age, from those of us of a more senior outlook, shall we say. And then you've probably got a financial taste as well, in so much as, you know, the better things tend to come at a higher price tag. It's just supply and demand. So once you sort of scratch the surface and communicate with the client and get to know them and their standing in each of those different spheres, you can make an educated guess. The wonder of modern technology means that I can email clients and say, "Look, I found this, think it might be for you." They look at a picture on a screen and go, "Oh, I love it. You know, when can I have it? When can I see it?" The only difficult thing is when the husband gets involved or the partner gets involved and they're trying to do something as a surprise potentially, and then your neck's really on the line because you haven't got the contact with the end client. You're relying on a third party, as it were, and that does make it difficult. And you know, we all want happy clients because they come back. So you need to be intuitive and understand what the occasion is, what kind of person they are, what clothes they wear. Every aspect of their life is reflected in this. Are they going to wear it every day? Not if you're buying a tiara, I'd suggest. You never know. Someone might do that vacuuming in the tiara.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that sort of understanding not just their taste in their jewelry, but like you say, the whole characteristic of a person is so important because it shapes, like you say, the different cultures have different tastes. And then, you know, what someone likes to have their public appearance and what they like to wear, and all of that flavors ultimately the jewelry that they wear. So, you know, obviously sometimes in the domestic industries you have butlers, you have people that are shopping for their principals, and that member of staff will go out and be asked to find something specifically. And I know once we jump off this call, you're going straight into a live auction, and you must source a lot of your pieces that way. So could you give any advice to people who are going into auction houses for the first time as to, you know, how they should approach it, or what your top tips would be, obviously without giving away too many secrets, because you always want to win.
Absolutely.
But, you know, what could you share?
It's a very interesting thing about winning, because it does get competitive, and obviously by its own nature it is competitive. But don't, for goodness sake, let your ego get involved, because, you know, if you really want something, then that, you know, you'll go to whatever price. And I've heard lots of advice over the years, people saying, you know, once you've got a price in mind, if it's £1,000, you stick to that £1,000, whatever happens. I'm not saying you should do that, because If you're buying something that's unique, I'm not saying that all jewelry is, but this is your only chance potentially to obtain this. You might want to go to 1,500. You might get swept away, but don't let that 1,500 become 15,000, because there are other places that you might be able to go and buy it from shops, from dealers, people like myself. So that would be, I suppose, my first word of advice would be to stay level-headed and not get carried away. It is exciting. There's a buzz. There's an atmosphere. Not so much now that we're all doing it over the internet with the current situation, but when you're actually in the room and you see the bids fly around and the numbers and the calculator on the wall's got it in every currency, and you see it in Hong Kong dollars, and all of a sudden you're a billionaire. It's you do get a rush of blood. So just be cautious. Make sure that you can see the things before you buy them. Again, at the moment it's not possible. I've been in the business 25 years. I'm quite confident buying things, as we call, blind, without physically handling them. But I'll still email the auction house, say I need to see pictures. Not just the picture that you've got on there, but can you put it on your jacket so I can see what scale it is, what the true colours are, and things like that. The auction house will do that. They'll send you condition reports. They can actually look at it and write down their thoughts and let you know.
Yeah.
Be aware that the price that the item falls for, the hammer price, isn't what you will pay. There is a premium attached to it as well. Okay. I'd say across the board, on average, it's 25% up to a certain threshold. So if the hammer falls 1,000, your invoice will actually be 1,250.
Okay, and that figure goes to the auction house. That's
correct.
Their commission
that
they charge.
That's their commission. Yeah.
So the buyer pays the commission, not the seller.
The seller pays commission as well.
Oh, okay. So double whammy.
So the seller pays a commission, the buyer pays a premium. Okay. It's one of my bugbears with the auction world is that they actually make 40% as a handling fee.
Wow.
And people don't realize that. So there are lots of they're not hidden charges now because they're not allowed to hide the fact they charge the premium. But people, going to the first time, you may not realize. You think you bought something for 100,000. There are add-ons them onto that, and then if you want shipping, insurance, export documents prepared, etc., etc. So just be aware, do your research. I think that's the key thing. Yeah, is that you need to be informed with everything in life, and this especially. It may be that you see something that you buy cheaper elsewhere. So don't think that an auction house is the be all and end all. It's a good reference point. Sure. Talking of which, utilize their search engines. You can log on to their websites, or even you may not even need to log on for some of them, and you can search through their archives. So if you wanted to buy, pick something, a Rolex Daytona, or a 5-carat diamond ring that was a certain color and clarity and cut, you can type all that information in, and it will print out or show on the screen a list of items that have sold in the last 10, 20 years that match your description, and you can get a bearing for where the price is. Now, obviously, 20 years ago was a long time ago in our world, but it'll give you maybe a little bit of confidence that what you're seeing is the right price bracket for where you want to be. Estimates are all well and good, but most auction houses try and exceed their estimates because then they feel they're doing a good job. So something with an estimate of 10 to 20,000 may make 45. Don't be surprised,
Okay, interesting.
But research, communication. Sorry.
No, carry on with what you were about to say.
No, just research and communication, really. In the talk to the auction house. Do you really think, Lucy, this ring's going to make 10 to 20,000? Oh, well, it came from a private client, so we got it in a little bit cheaper. There's always a story behind everything. So delve deep. Yeah, and I think it's interesting about the sort of the hidden surprises element, because I'm sure the world you work in has always surprising you on a day-to-day basis. And I don't want you to share anything that would break discretion, as I'm sure you wouldn't. But I wondered if you had any, unusual stories or anything you could share that would be of interest to hear about the amazing jewellery world that you work in. It's a question I'm asked a lot, normally at weddings when you're sat next to someone, or having a drink with hours to kill. And people say, "Oh, your job's so interesting. You must have loads of stories." Yeah. I do, but I can't share half of them. Not on a forum like this. But there is one that is an educational story in a way. I bought something that was probably in my top 5 all-time purchases. Can't tell you exactly what it is, but it came out of a small auction in the UK. And it cost a lot of money, but not as much as I eventually sold it for, having done all the research and everything else.
Yeah.
The story was that the piece almost ended up in a house sale where basically an auction house will sell the contents of a house.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
it was in a drawer. It was in a drawer in a chest of drawers. And it was only pure chance that someone opened the drawer and saw a small cardboard box in the back, opened the cardboard box, and there inside was this particular piece. It ended up in the Altani collection, to give you an idea of the magnitude of the piece.
Wow.
So, had that person not opened that drawer and found the box, someone would have bought a chest of drawers that, I don't know, maybe sold for 500, maybe sold for 5,000. And inside, hopefully one day, they would have found this treasure. It really was a treasure.
Wow.
So yeah, always open all drawers and all boxes.
Absolutely, that's very good advice. So you've talked about your gem training that you did, which sounds fascinating. I think we need to have another conversation just about that. But obviously, training is very important to work in the industry you do. But how much value do you actually put on training? Do you think you could have done your job without that training?
Difficult question. That a lot of what I do is intuitive, and
Sure.
and whether that comes from my training or whether it's a natural disposition to things, it's really difficult to quantify.
Yeah.
What I would say is that I can walk into a sale room anywhere in the world, or I can go to a mine. Rough stones are a little bit rusty with me because it's been 20 odd years, but I feel confident in most situations of looking at a stone and going, that is an X. And the reason it's an X is because of this reason, this reason, and this reason. Given the right tools, it's that gemological training that's given me that ability to do it. So, when I learned, we had to, I sound like an old man now, and education with kids and everything is very different, but, we had to learn all of these facts and figures off by heart.
Yeah.
Now you're allowed to take the reference book into the exam. But my point is that I can't remember those facts and figures from 20 years ago. What I remember is which book to look them up in now. So that kind of learning is really important. I'm embarrassed that not embarrassed, but I'm not sat in my new office because obviously I'm at home and I don't have all of my ref books. Yeah, but looking behind you with all of your reference books, I've got currently in storage about 30 cardboard boxes of reference books and old catalogs and things like that. So it's a job or an industry, where I never know what's going to happen day to day.
Yeah.
You're constantly learning and you're constantly reevaluating where you think price lines should be, where you think markets are moving. So the gemological learning that I undertook was more about obviously science, but it's more about the actual item. The learning that I learn every day is whether that item is saleable or not, and if so, how for. So it's two sides of the same coin, I suppose. But one wouldn't work without the other.
It's almost that foundation to everything, right? You're drawing on your own aptitude for communicating with people and finding out what they want and then doing the right deal for them and making it work, but equally having that confidence, like you said, to be able to identify the stones in the first place you perhaps wouldn't have had if you hadn't done that training. So I always look at training, and particularly, with my own company, with the e-learning platform that we just launched recently, is that the training gives people a foundation for confidence and then career evolution. It's not the be all and end all, and you shouldn't just do training and then, like you say, put your feet up and think, oh, I know it all now, off I go. But it's that foundation and deeper understanding that you can then spring through your career and your life journey on, which I always really find exciting. And I think it sounds like for you've had that foundation, which has then, really blossomed your amazing career so far.
No, absolutely. It's opened so many doors, and how could I sit in my office and have a client come in who wants to sell something and go, oh, do you know what? I'm really sorry. I have no idea what that stone is. It's happened once or twice with some weird stuff, but in general, it's that foundation, that bedrock that you can build something on, and it depends what avenue you want to take in the industry. If you want to become an expert and work in a laboratory, then obviously you're going to go down more of the science route and delve even deeper than the courses that I've done do. If you want to work for an auction house, you've got to have a basic understanding of what a blue stone is. Well, it could be X, Y, or Z, you know, and sitting where I sit on a daily basis, the same thing. So it's while not vital, you're quite right. It's not the be all and end all, but to learn it on the job would take far longer. You know, I did the course over 2 years part time as night classes, which was a strain at the time, but you know, for the equivalent knowledge throughout my normal career would have taken me 5 or 6 years.
No, it's really interesting, and I think that's one of the things. I mean, obviously we're in lockdown at the moment, but when the lockdown eases and the world goes back to inverted commas normal, you know, e-learning is such a powerful way for people to get information on any industry. So you know, if someone was looking to go into your industry or wanting to learn more about the things that we teach, such as like shopping for principles or cleaning luxury items, you know, how do you actually clean a gemstone, how do you look after it, or the best way to inventory, you know, the jewellery section or the watches that the principal owns. You know, what do you think e-learning opens people to? You know, why is it accessible? What works about it?
I think for me, and my strong opinion is that people can do it at their own pace. They can do it in their own environment where they feel comfortable. You know, so you can pick and choose. You can do one module one night and then spend 3 weeks reinforcing that learning, or not doing anything, having a break, reading it, you know, taking a laptop on the train. You know, it's so versatile that you can use it to work around your current commitments. You can also go back and refresh your learning and go, you know, didn't quite understand that. Let's go and, you know, let's listen to that module again, or that particular point. You know, cleaning jewelry, very valid point. Hard to do in lockdown unless you've got your own supply, but for example, it's key. There's certain things you can do with one gemstone you can't do with another, and it's really important to get it right. So for me, it's the versatility of it, that you can pick it up, put it down, and learn on the go, and then revisit it.
Well, we often, that's one of the foundations in one of our modules when you're looking after fine art, for example, or caring for antique jewelry, is that if in doubt, you know, ask an expert, ask someone who knows what to do, because like you say, if you put the wrong cleaning product on a certain surface, I mean, take marble for example, if you put the wrong thing on marble, that's it, you know, the marble is damaged. And stone is like a marble in the sense that each will be unique in how you approach it. So we're always getting those calls from people saying, how do we do it and not make those mistakes? And like you say, that flexibility to read it on the tube, or, you know, have a look in the evening when you're relaxing, you can really sort of self-manage your own learning journey, which is I think very exciting for people to be able to have in unlike our days when it was all go to a library, find the book, get lost in the library.
100%. Have to go home in the rain. Absolutely.
Exactly. But no, Sam, this has been such an amazing experience to talk with you today, to hear about your journey. I could spend all afternoon talking to you, but if people want to get in contact with you about, you know, either sourcing antique jewelry or wanting advice or anything, I believe they can contact you at lockstonelimited@gmail.com. Is that correct?
Lockstone London Limited.
Lockstone London Limited @gmail.com. Absolutely. And of course, if people want to reach out to you in any other way, they can always contact me, because we know you, and we can of course put you in touch. Thank you so much for sharing all this amazing knowledge. I'm fascinated. It's brilliant.
Oh, it's a pleasure. We really could be here all afternoon, because there are so many different aspects to the industry, but hopefully that's given people an understanding and a brief introduction. And honestly, if people have questions, they want advice, send me an email, and I'll respond. You know, it's lockdown at the moment. I need something to keep me entertained, so please bother me.
Absolutely. Well, good luck with your auction next, and thank you so much for joining us, Sam. Have a lovely afternoon.
Pleasure, and you.
Thank you.